EGR 6163, Project Management, Module 3, Lecture 2, Organization, Structure, and Culture. The learning objectives for Lecture 2 are to continue, we're going to understand the interaction between project management structure and the culture of the organization. The reading assignment is Larson Chapter 3. So, project management offices emerged in response to the poor track record many companies experienced in finishing projects on time, budget, and according to the plan. So these PMOs is basically a centralized unit within the organization or department that oversees and supports the execution of projects. It plays a crucial role in helping matrix systems mature into more effective project delivery platforms. It can be characterized by three different kinds. Weather station, this tracks and monitors the project performance. Control tower improves project execution. Resource pool provides the organization with a cadre of trained project managers and professionals. Command and control has direct authority over the project. So PMOs are individualized according to a specific company. Some of them will be sort of the weather station model, while others will actually be a command and control center model. It depends on the organization. So what's the right project management structure for any given company? Well, it depends really on the organization. But however, there's a lot of empirical evidence that project success is directly linked to the amount of autonomy and authority project managers have over their individual projects. So what project management structure should an organization use? Well, it's kind of a complicated question, and there's no precise answers. However, a number of issues need to be considered at both the organization and project levels that may lead to an organization to choose one over the other. So there's two broad categories. There's the organizational considerations. So empirical evidence suggests that if over 75% of work involves projects, then the organization should consider a fully projectized organization. If an organization has both standard products and projects, then a matrix arrangement might be more appropriate. However, if an organization has very few projects, then a less formal arrangement is probably required, all that's required. Dedicated teams should be created on an as-needed basis, and the organization might consider outsourcing project work. For organizations that cannot afford to tie up critical personnel on individual projects, a matrix system would appear to be appropriate typically. An alternative would be to create a dedicated team but outsource project work when resources are not available internally. There's also project considerations to be involved. So there's really 7 cases here to consider: the size of the project, the strategic importance, novelty and the need for innovation, need for integration, environmental complexity, budget and time constraints, and stability of resource requirements. All of these have to kind of be factored in. So the higher level of these 7 factors, the more autonomy and authority the project manager and project team need to be successful. So that would typically translate into using a dedicated team or a project matrix structure. So for example, these structures should be used for large projects that are strategically critical and new to a company, requiring much innovation. These structures are also appropriate for complex, multidisciplinary projects that require input from many departments. Dedicated project teams should also be used for urgent projects in which the nature of the work requires people working steadily from beginning to end. So there's a very strong connection between project management structure, organizational culture, and project success. So what is organizational culture? What does that mean? Well, organizational culture is a system of shared norms, beliefs, values, and assumptions that binds the people together, thus creating shared meanings. So this is sort of like each individual company is different, and a lot of it is based on how the company is set up, who originally founded it, and basically the history of the company. It sort of like reflects the personality of the organization. And it performs several important functions to organizations. It provides a sense of identity for its members. It helps legitimize the management system. It clarifies and reinforces the standards of behavior. And it helps to create a social order. So research suggests that there are 10 primary characteristics that in aggregate capture the essence of an organization's culture. There's the member identity. This is the degree to which the employees identify with the organizations as a whole, rather than with their type of job or field of professional expertise. There's the team emphasis. This is the degree to which activities are organized around groups rather than individuals. There's the management focus. The degree to which management decisions take into account the effective outcomes on people within the organization. There's a unit integration. This is the degree with which organizations are encouraged to operate in a coordinated or independent nature. There's the control, the degree with which rules, policies, and direct supervision are used to oversee and control employee behavior. The risk tolerance, the degree in which employees are encouraged to be aggressive, innovative, and risk-taking. Reward criteria, the degree in which rewards such as promotion and salary increases are allotted according to employee performance rather than seniority, favorism, or other non-performance factors. Conflict tolerance, the degree in which employees are encouraged to air conflicts and criticisms openly. Means versus ends orientation, the degree to which management focuses on outcomes rather than on technique and processes used to achieve these results. And finally, there's the open system focus, the degree to which organization monitors and responds to changes in the external environment. So deciphering an organization's culture is highly interpretive, and it's a very subjective process that requires assessment of both current and past history. So how do you do it? Well, the best way is to study the physical characteristics of an organization, to read about the organization and its mission, to observe how people interact within the organization, and to interpret stories and folklore surrounding the organization. So our book gives a sort of a worksheet for diagnosing the culture of an organization. Although this is by no means exhaustive, the checklist often yields clues about the norms, customs, and values of an organization. So first of all, you want to study the physical characteristics of an organization. What does the external architecture look like? What image does it convey? Is it unique? Are the buildings and offices the same quality for all employees? Or are the modern buildings and fancier offices reserved for senior executives or managers? What are the customs being concerning dress? What's everybody wearing? What symbol does the organization use to signal authority and status within the organization? These physical characteristics can shed light on who has the real power within the organization and the extent to which organization is internally differentiated and how formal the organization is in its business dealings. The next thing to do is read about the public documents, read about the organization, look at their annual reports, their mission statements, their press releases. This demonstrates the what the company's putting out about themselves. Do the reports emphasize the people who work for the organization and what they do, or the financial performance of the firm? Each emphasis reflects a different culture. Is the documentation, is it concerned about for the people who make up in the company? Or is this concerned about the results and the bottom line? So next thing you want to do is observe how the people interact within the organizations, the behavior. What meetings do people hold? Who attend these meetings? Who does the talking? To whom do they talk? How candid is the conversation at the meetings? Do people speak for the organizations or for the individual departments? What's the focus of the meeting? How much time do the meetings take? What issues are discussed repeatedly? All these can lead clues to the organization. And the last thing you want to do is look at the folklore. What stories are out there about the company itself. Look for similarities among the stories by different people. These often reflect what's important to an organization's culture. So project managers have to be able to operate in several potentially diverse organizational cultures. First, on the internal projects, they have to interact with the culture of the current parent organization, as well as with the various departments within the organization. On external projects, they have to interact with clients or customer organizations. Finally, they have to be able to interact in varying degrees with a host of other organizations connected to the project. These can include vendors and suppliers, subcontractors, consulting firms, government and local regulations, and oftentimes community groups. So oftentimes you hear the term a riverboat trip. This is a metaphor describing the relationship between the culture and the project management. In this metaphor, culture is the river and the project is the boat. So this final figure in the textbook, this particular chapter, attempts to identify which cultural characteristics create an environment conducive to complex projects involving people from many different disciplines. So here you can see the author's kind of move the sliders to what he thinks is the appropriate importance of these various dimensions. The thing to note here is that in many cases the ideal culture is not at either extreme. It's sort of in the middle, right? It's for example, a fertile project culture would likely be one in which management balances its focus on both the need for the task and for the people. The optimal culture would balance concern with the output and the processes to achieve those outcomes. In other cases, the ideal culture would be one on one end of the dimension. For example, because most projects require collaboration across disciplines, it would be desirable that the culture of the organization emphasize working in teams and identifying with the organization, not just the professional domain. Likewise, it's important that the culture support a certain degree of risk-taking and a tolerance for constructive conflict. So oftentimes, you don't see all of these pushed to one side or the other. Okay, this is the end of Module 3. I'll see you in Module 4.